Thank you for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. I'm your host, Tracy Martins, and today I am sitting here with Megan Cornwall, who is the owner and jewelry maker of Iris Marnie. Hey Megan, how's it going?
Good, thanks Tracy. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for being here. Now, I've met Megan probably about 5-6 years ago. You were manager of Nancy John's gallery, and she's an artist.
Correct.
She does a lot of pictures that have signs, really eclectic ones from Detroit and Windsor, with the color that you paint on them is just, they stand out. They're amazing.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Tracy. It's been, that's kind of how it all started. You know, my kind of roots are in the visual arts, and I was with Nancy for about 7 years. It was an awesome job.
Now, did you take the photographs as well?
I did, yeah. So it starts with the photograph, and that's kind of the basis of the concept, and then it goes from there. So once I take the photograph, I then send it out for print, and it goes on basically like this large sticker. That's kind of how I describe it. And then it gets adhered to a wooden board, and then I paint on top of that. So the photograph really is the kind of main base where then I kind of go from or start from.
But you have those colors, like the neon pinks and the greens, and she loves the Yorktown Plaza sign. Are you happy that's back up and running? Oh my
gosh, thrilled. Well, I was so sad to see that they weren't lighting it anymore, and I know they were having issues with that. But it's such an iconic sign, especially for this area. So I think it's exceptionally important to have those kind of things, to have those pockets of history within our city, because for so long we've torn down or taken down or renovated or revamped, and that's kind of the basis of the artwork as well, where it's kind of a nod to memories in the past. So it's, to me, important to acknowledge those kind of historical things. And
do you have anything else out in the works? Is there any other signs? Or
I do. Well, I just finished Fox Theater, and that was for Nancy's size show. Ooh. And so I have another one in the works, and I was thinking of doing Airport Motel.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah. So it's another kind of iconic sign in the city, and for me, it'll just be the basis will be the sign, and then from there I'll do the paint and everything on top of that. But
what I really like is the Burger King, since it was the very first Burger King in Canada, and they revamped it, but they brought back the old sign.
Yep.
I love the fact that they went back to the retro sign, and I was thinking about it when I saw it. I'm like, that would be a good picture.
Oh, yeah, it would. You know, I do like that too, because I think there is also a nod to, or a kind of a need to enjoy what once was. And yes. I think we're seeing more and more of that, kind of a nod to the past. So it's interesting that you point that out.
Yeah. Now, the whole purpose of Iris and Marnie is a nod to the past. Mm-hmm. And Marnie was your grandmother.
Correct.
And Iris is your husband's grandmother.
Yes.
Now, how did you go from artwork to jewelry?
That's a good question. It actually started at Nancy's. She was the one, actually, her and Diane were the ones that really encouraged me to pursue my art again. I hadn't really created since university.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it had been a good span from when I started at Nancy's, and they were the ones that kind of pushed me into doing that. Once that kind of creativity started, it just kind of naturally flowed to jewelry. I've always loved fashion. I've always loved accessories in particular. So I started making jewelry actually when I was at Nancy's back in 2012. And it was metal-based jewelry. And it was because I was absolutely in love. And at the time, the really big statement necklaces were in. And I absolutely loved all the work that was coming out of specifically J. Crew.
Yes.
And they had really, it was classic, but it had that kind of funkiness to it. And I think that's what really kind of spurred me on to kind of start creating my own kind of versions of that. And then from there, it just grew. So for a very long time, it was metal, and I did shows. It wasn't as big or as much part of my life as it is now. Yeah. But that's kind of how it started.
And now you use polymer clay?
I do, yeah.
I really like it because it is classic and vintage. It seems like they're timeless pieces, which I'm wearing a ton of right now. I have my Megan ring, which I have another one at home, and my butterfly and her earrings. And I think probably have about 4 or 5 more pairs of earrings and another ring and a necklace.
Which I'm so appreciative of. I really am.
Well, I can't go to shops or pop-up shops or markets when Megan's going because it's like, just what else do we have? Which, by the way, I still do want to have the nutcracker earrings.
Oh, yes, I got you. Don't worry. It's true. It's so true. And it's interesting because I've noticed more and more, never thought that I would, as a jewelry artist, see regulars. And I've noticed that. And it's so rewarding. Like, it's kind of, it's surprising, but it's rewarding. And
like, I know you started right when the pandemic started in 2020.
Yep.
But we spent so many months in our PJs and our sweats that I think even if you're wearing a sweatshirt and jeans, you want to kind of dress it up a little bit, just give it a little bit of flair without it costing an arm and a leg.
Yep,
and that's what these pieces are. I've worn these really sparkly.
Oh, those are my favorite.
I know. I've worn them with a hoodie, and they still. But it didn't look weird. You can wear them anywhere. They are cost effective. Now, is that because of the polymer clay?
It's twofold. When I started, and again, that kind of going back to 2012, when I started this, my goal was to make affordable jewelry. So at the end of the day, I always kind of preface it with it's costume jewelry, but you know, it's kind of elevating it to a sense where it's got an artistic flair and it has a design concept behind it. It is small batch, it's slow made. So I'm trying to kind of mesh those two worlds of like exclusivity and kind of a cost-effective piece. So the polymer clay definitely lends itself. Where I start to see my costs increase is more the elements. And as of late, you know, I've really tried to create a little bit more, or pay, a little bit more attention to my materials as well. So that's kind of upped it as well. All of the backings are stainless steel and they're 18 karat gold plated or they're silver plated, which I've realized is really important when I started all this. So
it is, because I'm the type that even if it says that it's hypoallergenic, I usually can't wear them. And these ones, I haven't had a problem wearing them every day. But there's others that I've had to throw out because I wear them once and I'm irritated.
You have to be so careful. And I realized that very quickly when I started this, especially when I started the earrings. And that was, as you said, in 2020, I realized it had to be nickel free. It had to be cadmium free. We had to make sure that there were no, no allergens in the metals that were actually in direct contact with the ear.
Now, was she a big jewelry person?
Oh, was she ever, Tracy? Oh my goodness. She was very fashionable. And her attention to accessories was impeccable. I mean, we're talking, of the time, the 30s, 40s, 50s, hats, gloves,
the fancy little purses.
Oh, yes, the little purses. She had that one hat. Oh gosh, it was so cute. It kind of tilted to the side and had this big plume of a feather coming out of it. And that was so her,
Oh, wow.
She was very, very fashionable lady. Yeah.
And if you ever get to see her at the markets, you have these big pictures of her, which I love that you are really keeping with the roots of it. Now, before I go any further, I do want to give a shout out to Candace, who does the Hello, Hello World podcast. Which I love her. She's on Apple Podcasts. I do listen to her, and she has another Windsor, Essex County podcaster that loves the small businesses as well as influential people in our community. But she did an interview with Megan in September of 2021, and I had to bring note to it because I listened to it today and I can't believe the difference, how much you have changed in just a year. Like, you've really expanded the whole line.
Honestly, it's been a whirlwind. And when I think back to that, how I started. And actually, it's funny, I was getting notifications today on social media giving me photos of when I first started the polymer clay back in 2020. I mean, I was cutting things out with like washers and I was baking stuff in like muffin tins. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Megan. Like,
but did it work?
It did, but it got better. And, I think it's interesting because you have to start somewhere, especially as an artist. You got to try the medium and you have to hone your skills and work from there. And that's kind of what I found. And I was so surprised, not really knowing how this was going to go. I was so surprised how welcoming the community was with this crazy endeavor and how it just kind of snowballed from there. There was one opportunity after the other. And that isn't to say there wasn't hard work behind it, networking and all that. But, I think we're really fortunate to live where we do because of that.
I do too. And now, what did you start off with? What was your first piece?
Earrings.
Earrings?
Specifically. So I just made earrings and I made big statement earrings because at the time that was really kind of on trend, on point for polymer clay, like the bigger the better. And I've noticed as we've kind of progressed into later 2022, heading into 2023, trends have really kind of, I think, shifted to more delicate pieces. That being said, I'm still a big advocate of statement jewelry, and I always will be, and I think there's a place for it.
Well, because that necklace that you have, that I have that in the blue, but it's the smaller chain, so you're modernizing it, and I really love it with the bigger chain.
I appreciate that. I think that's where I'm trying to find the balance between my own personal taste and obviously preferences of others, and kind of making sure that I can appease and appeal to a wider audience, which is kind of why I diverted from earrings as well.
Yeah, so you have your earrings and the necklace and the rings. Are you looking into doing bracelets, or are you just going to stick with the main three?
Well, I started back in, I want to say June. So for Art in the Park, I had bracelets. And that was kind of a leap of faith. I have no idea how this is going to go. So I tried them and they went over really well. And then I just I let it go. So that's definitely something that I'm thinking about bringing back because I don't have them at my shows now or on my website. So, and it's not really something I promoted or really kind of talked about. So it's definitely in the works. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, what is your favorite piece that you've made right from the get-go?
And I'm not just saying this because you're wearing them. Those earrings that you have on, I think to date are my favorite. It's just a balance, a little bit of sparkle, and they were from my winter, this holiday collection, my most recent one, and they're some of my favorite pieces that I've made.
It seems that this season for the winter collection, you have used more than just the polymer clay. We have the little snowflakes, and then you have the plastic leg from the Christmas Story. She has the leg, and you have your toy soldiers as well.
Yep.
You've also made them into sun catchers.
I have,
Ornaments?
Ornaments as well, too. So I started sun catchers back in the summer, and those really started to catch on as well because it was a way for me to capture an audience outside of jewelry. It was just another little added something. So if I had someone come to my booth or check out my website, I had maybe a home decor item that maybe if they weren't into earrings or necklaces or rings, that might satisfy something that they're looking for. So I did the sun catchers in the summer, and then I thought, well, why not ornaments? And then use some of the crystals from the sun catchers in the ornaments as well because they're just so pretty. They hit the light and you get all that sparkle on the floor. So it's nice.
Oh, I love them. And I one day want to watch you make them because I know you put a lot in. I've seen a few of your little snippets on Instagram. And how long does it take to make? Like, because your necklace, that is a mix. How long did something like that take?
Anywhere between, I would say, 4 hours to 6 hours in total. It just depends on the piece. So I always I kind of say there's stages to the clay making. So you've got the baking stage, where you're hand mixing and crafting the colors, then you're cutting them out with the cutters and baking them. Then you move on to the finishing stage, where I am polishing and sanding, and that just takes, depending again on the piece, it could take, a couple hours just to get through a whole batch in and itself.
Wow. Now, for your necklace, and I keep going to it because it's right there, how many different colors or pieces of clay? Because there's sparkly in that as well.
So this one is translucent based. So there's a really cool clay. I use Sculpey Souffle as kind of my main clay, but I really like Fimo. They've got this translucent clay, so you can actually use it to make like these faux stone finishes. So that's kind of the main base of this one. And then I think it's got 3 other clay colors in there. So there's like a custom mixed gold, white, and then I think there's a bit of a gray in there as well too. Yeah.
And I forgot my ring. It has a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that's where you use acrylic paint as well too.
Oh my goodness. You'd never know it. So the little veins.
That's paint. Yep.
Never knew that.
Paint, or you can use liquid clay as well too. And you can get the liquid clay in a variety of colors as well, but it gives you that kind of cool finish. So
oh wow.
I love using that.
A lot more intricate than what I ever expected. Thinking back on all of these, what is one piece that you were actually really surprised that went over, that you were kind of, I don't know if people are going to like it? Is there one thing that just shocked you?
I would say the rings. I wasn't really certain when I kind of put them out there. I always start with my gut, and I saw this kind of metal base where I thought, that's really cool. I really like that. Something I would wear. But I wasn't really certain people would actually like it because, again, it was a little bit bigger. It was a little funkier. And it's actually the ring that you have on there. I wasn't sure how people were going to take it. And I thought, well, I don't know. Am I going to be left with?
Well, and the funny thing is I'm more on the delicate side. So I'm like, I'm going to get it. It's something different. And I just like things that are different. I can't believe how comfortable it is. You kind of forget that it's on there after a while. That's
key. I mean, I always test my product out, obviously before it goes live. But that was one that I was surprised about as well. And it's so nice to hear because I kept one of those for myself.
I think the only problem I've had is I have another one that's in a blue, like the butterfly, which was just kind of a test piece. And I wear them both on the same finger. I've actually got them caught together, and then I'm stuck going, oh no, how do I get them apart?
That. I totally get that because I've done the same thing.
Thank God, I thought it was just me. You're always on the go between making your jewelry, doing pop-up markets, and she also works at the Urban Art Market, which I think you guys all have to work there a little bit.
Correct.
Doing your artwork as well. Do you have any downtime? Ever?
I generally no. But I'm so happy that for me, and this sounds so cliche, I know, but it doesn't feel like work. No. And I do come January, I do get a bit of a lull from markets and pop-ups. Usually it's January, February, March. And then they start up again for the season at the end of April. So that has given me a little bit more time to kind of regroup, reset, figure things out for the coming year. And then, to take my time and really set my goals as to what I want. And that's what I did last January. It was a chance for me to kind of catch my breath because, as I mentioned, I love this. It doesn't feel like work, but it can be really grueling, as you know, kind of doing these pop-ups every weekend. And
you just did Bright Lights last weekend. How was that? I was so bummed to miss it.
It was so much fun, honestly.
Yeah.
I did Bright Lights last year, so in 2021, and it was such an interesting experience. It was such a great vibe. Being in those huts.
Those are cute little huts.
They were so much fun. They also made being outside for, 5-6 hours a little bit more palatable. They give you a heater. But the City of Windsor does it up so nicely. And it's so well organized. Tiana Lindsay, who is the organizer, who works with all the vendors, is impeccable. She's incredible. And, I think I find myself exceptionally lucky to be a part of it and to have done it this year as well as last.
Now, do you only get to do it for the one weekend, or are you going to be in it again?
I applied for just one weekend this year, and same as last year. I think for me too, I said to myself, no more outdoor shows after the middle of December. I had also said, it's funny, I backtrack. I said to my husband, Chris, no more outdoor shows after my last one, which was October 22nd. And he looked at me and he was like, no, you're going to be doing an outdoor show.
Of course. But I mean, you don't really have to do so many markets. You are in 5 stores. I was shocked because when you talked to Candace last year, you were just in Nancy John's gallery in the Urban Art Market. And where are you now?
Yeah, so I'm in Nancy John's Gallery and Urban Art Market, but I'm also 46 Talbot there in Essex, as well as Mina Preach Framing and Designs. And, I've been really fortunate to get into these fantastic retailers who have been exceptionally supportive of my work.
And also, if you can't get to any of the pop-up markets or to these stores, you are selling them online at irisandmarnie.com?
Correct. Yep. So I have an online store. That was one of the first things that I did when I decided to kind of create this brand and this company. So online store was a must for me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, do you see yourself maybe getting a brick and mortar, or are you happy just being all over the place?
No, I definitely want a brick and mortar store. It's something that I've had in my back of my brain for many, many years. And I've always wanted to kind of foster that idea, but I've always been interested in being an entrepreneur. And I love the idea of expanding it into something beyond jewelry as well, too.
Now, Christmas is only a couple weeks away. Do you still have product for those last minute shoppers?
You bet I do. So I will, I've decided actually at the beginning of this season that I wouldn't be doing just one large drop as I did in previous years, that I would be kind of slowly dropping new work as the months progress. So I will be doing more updates to my website, and I will have stock available for sure for those last minute people.
Excellent. Yeah. And again, they can come to the Urban Art Market, Nancy John's Gallery. She's in so many. Just follow her on Instagram and on Facebook. Hit up her website and you'll be able to find Megan somewhere in the town.
I'm all over.
You are. Well, Megan, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule with Iris and Marnie to visit us today on YQG and Bloom.
Tracy, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
And I appreciate it as well. Again, my name is Tracy Martins, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of YQG and Bloom. And I will see you next week, where I'm going to give you a little insight into myself, my own business, and why I decided to create YQG and Bloom. Have a great night.